Exploring the Kai disciplines. We're now at Camouflage. And ultimately, the choice is not only what kind of character build do you want to play, what kind of Kai do you want to represent through Lone Wolf, the avatar Lone Wolf. Do you want to be more of a combat focus? Do you want to kind of be psionic focused? Do you want to kind of be more sneak, reconnaissance, rogue focused? Do you want a mix of everything? The choice is going to be based on where you are in the story, because the books do link, ranking the order that you want to pick. Now, Camouflage is interesting because I find as I read through the book, I read a little bit slower than normal because I'm not here to necessarily process information like a technical manual, but I'm looking to kind of inject myself into the book. I'm picturing what's going on. I'm picturing the narrative, and I'm projecting what I think it looks like, bolstered by the narrative in the back and the glossary, and bolstered by the maps and certainly a lot of the images in the books. I'm building that kind of RPG experience in my mind. I framework that as a way to say, not all the abilities work like you think they do or imagine they do. And there might be something in the awesomeness of being Kai that you're overlooking. I'm going to offer a consideration. It's a minor spoiler, but it's a consideration. The idea of camouflage is, well, I've got my Kai cloak. If I'm in the woods, I can camouflage myself. If I'm in an urban setting, I know how to use light and shadow. I know how to hide my footsteps. I know how to move stealth. It's this idea of blending in or appearing in a sea of people in a room, navigating that way. It's kind of a catch-all for ability, maybe like kind of the old combo of being able to hide in shadows and move silently. You have to project out and realize it's not like an invisibility spell or an auto win in some of the entries. You might, this is why you got to kind of really read that narrative. You might be approaching one of the story branches, or you're in one of the books and there's a potential encounter coming, and you're like, no problem. I don't have to run. I got camouflage. I'll just camo myself and they'll blow by and I'll continue walking on the road. It's a physical skill, a physical art. There are encounters and places in the books where something can sense that you're alive. Something can smell that you're there. There's a perception beyond camouflage. And what I find is camouflage is a little bit tricky because if you're not really looking at that narrative and thinking about that narrative, it's easy to think of it as an auto-include invisibility spell when it's not. So there might be times where I'm kind of on an interesting adventure path. I see some options up ahead that I'd like to explore. Might give me some loot or open up based on the map 2 paths. But something's approaching. If I hide, great. But what if I'm detected? Might it be safer to get off the road or go somewhere or pursue something else? So in terms of ranking, I find camouflage helpful, but there are times when you got to read into that narrative and say, I'll play it a little bit safe. If you want to do that, or you could kind of risk it. So I won't say that it's one of the initial book 1 skills to select, but at some point I do want to acquire it earlier rather than in the later books because it's going to give me options that I can figure out, yes, this is safe, no, this is not safe, or in that moment, let's just see what happens. Let's roll the dice, so to speak, and see what happens in terms of Kai disciplines.